This is the Final Word T20 World Cup Daily. It is day 20. I believe that last night I said it was day 20 because technically it was day 20. It was about 12:40 a.m. where we were recording with Nat Roller outside the ground in St. Lucia, but now it is still day 20 and it's actually about the game that started on day 20, not the one that finished on day 20. This is the match between India and Afghanistan. The show's brought to you by Westfield, London, Westfield, Stratford City. Jeff Lemon and Daniel Norcross with you. Daniel, you were there at the ground in Barbados today watching the game. Would you please tell me all about it in 30 seconds?
India were too good in almost every department. After an early scare, losing a few wickets, Virat Kohli still not having any kind of form. It was Suryakumar Yadav who came to the party, as Ravi Shastri would say, ultimately getting up to 180, which proved to be too much for an Afghan side that relies so heavily on their top order clicking. They've had 2 century partnerships at the top of the order so far this World Cup today. They didn't. Jasprit Bumrah, the cheat code, did what he does, only he did it even better than normal, taking 3 for 7. And frankly, it was a slightly dull game in the end.
It did rather peter out, didn't it? In that run chase, it was something. I'm getting a vibe about Afghanistan that they've looked overwhelmed in their last couple of games, which maybe isn't surprising given the relative sort of lack of experience really competing at the top level. But I thought, and I think a lot of people thought, that maybe this was the tournament where they were really going to level up. You know, I was bullish about them. They looked so good through the group stage, the way they smashed up New Zealand and then took care of the games against lower-ranked teams without a trouble in the world, which isn't always the case. But the way the West Indies flattened them the other night, I wonder if they were still feeling flattened by that, the way they came out and played against India.
Yeah, maybe a touch. I mean, it was quite a difficult game to assess because finally, you know, I got to see play on a decent wicket, having been in America for so long, where the wickets have been torpid and difficult and awkward. And, you know, Rashid Khan bowled really well. Your Fazal Farooqi took 3 more wickets. He's got 15 in the tournament. They had flashes of goodness, but Noor Ahmed was a disappointment today, I think, and perhaps some of the supporting bowlers didn't bowl as well as they might. But India fought back really well with the bat. You know, I mean, Suryakumar Yadav is an exceptional player. Rishabh Pant only batted for 11 balls, but he was so aggressive to start with, and I think the fight was taken to them in a way that didn't happen against New Zealand, for example. I think you're right. There may also be a bit of a hangover from losing to the West Indies. But ultimately, their problem is they don't have the depth in batting that they really need to have at this level. At the top of the order is genuine quality and very exciting. But when you lose Ramanullah Gurbaz so early to a wild shot, he was playing wildly, and when it comes off, it's fantastic. When it doesn't come off, it's less than fantastic, and it exposes a lower and middle order that doesn't quite have it. It's some great shots. Gulbadin Naeeb played an amazing shot that went for 6, but not able really to manipulate and cope with the fact that India, they got Jadeja, Akshar Patel and Kuldeep Yadav, who have got such varieties, and they've got Bumrah. So then with the left arm of Arshdeep, it just asks too much of a batting side that doesn't have quite the consistent power. And you see it in their eyes when they lose the top order quickly. There's a bit of belief goes out of them. You know, Mohammad Nabi is about 95 years old. Gulbadin Naeeb has been pumping weight since sort of 1996. There is experience there, a lot of experience, but not quite that sort of flamboyance and consistency that you're going to need if you're going to challenge India. And when you're watching a side play against India, that's part of the problem, isn't it? You know, India are very, very good, and Afghanistan are very good fun, but I don't know if they're very, very good. I think they're good. There's a lot of qualifications there, Jeff, I realise. I've turned into Kevin Peterson. They're good. They're very good. They're very, very good, actually.
Let's roll through the game a little bit. There are a few things that were interesting. So the way that India start, Rohit Sharma slogs across the line, hits one up to middle off, Fazal Haq gets another early wicket, not in his first over, but in his second over. There's a period through the power play where they look to accelerate a bit. You've got that shot from Kohli, flat batting Naveen back down the ground for 6. and Rishabh Pant getting into things manically against Nabi. He plays that reverse sweep. Over back a point for 4, gets dropped out at deep square leg by Naveen, which also goes for 4, and then whacks it over cover for 4. So 3 boundaries off 3 balls. 47 off the power play, not too bad. Rashid Khan gets Pant with that low full toss that basically lands on top of his boot to get him LBW. And then you've got Kohli hitting a catch to long off. So 62 for 3 in the 9th over, not a great position. You've got Kohli 24 off 24 balls at that point, not a great opening performance. And you've got Rohit getting out early, and that opening partnership with Rohit and Kohli, they made 22 against Ireland, 12 against Pakistan, 1 against the USA, and 11 against Afghanistan. It just hasn't worked so far in this tournament. And by the time that Suryakumar Yadav and Hardik Pandya come together for the rescue act, it is a rescue act. Like, India really need them to deliver something, and they do deliver in spades, but it shouldn't necessarily distract from the fact that things aren't currently working at the top.
No, they really aren't. And Virat Kohli got to double figures for the first time in the tournament today, but 24 off 24 on that surface against a good bowling attack, but not a very, very good bowling attack. Probably, it just tells you something about his lack of form. Rohit also, I don't know whether that's partly because of having played so many of those games in America. You got to do some adjustment. I'd say he might just be out of form. I mean, there's that as well. The Indians have been crying out for a new breed. They want to get the youngsters in. And maybe it sort of is that time. At the moment, those deficiencies are covered up by the fact they've got such a tremendous bowling attack, and they do bat deep enough. With Akshar and Ravindra Jadeja the other way round, but Jadeja and Akshar at 7 and 8, then they're both guys who can hit big. And crucially, you've got Suryakumar Yadav, who on that surface played some outrageous shots. I mean, actually, but his best shot was one that people won't think of as outrageous, but to hit a square sweep as hard as he did between mid-wicket and deep backward square, and the field had been set for a Suryakumar Yadav shot. You actually don't often see Sky hit the ball sort of conventionally square of the wicket. But the thing is, that's because there's often somebody square of the wicket. He's so good, he just picks the spot.
Yeah.
And it so happened that they'd left that precise bit free, and he hit it with such timing. I mean, he hit a 6 today. When you're on commentary, you know what it's like, Jeff. You see the shot being hit, and you see the ball come off the bat, but because of the angle we're at often, you're not 100% sure what to trust, what you see the ball doing or what you see the shot doing. And I remember thinking, well, he's just sort of stroked that. I don't know if it's got the distance. And my God, it had the distance. They had 90 metres of distance. He barely touched it the way it looked. The timing was just exceptional. And then Pandya, actually, who can sometimes be a sort of capricious kind of character to watch. You know what he's capable of doing, but doesn't always produce it. It started off relatively slowly. He was very much the supporting role to Sky. And then when they decided to go, he hit some monster sixes out over deep mid-wicket. And you can be critical. You can say, well, the length was just there to be hit, and occasionally bowlers lose their length. But it was the ferocity and the power of it. And by waiting and waiting so that the ball was that little bit softer and the pitch was a little bit less tacky because it has now got a bit warmer, the ball was coming on, it was just clever batting, and they accelerated in little chunks, not like massive chunks. I thought they might actually have made 195-200 at one point when those two were going well, and it was to Afghanistan's credit that they came back into it in the last 5 overs and restricted India to a 180 that felt, having looked at the pitch and having seen yesterday's game between, England and the West Indies, I thought, Afghanistan are in this, provided they get off to a good start. But it's a big proviso, isn't it? When India decided not to delay the arrival of Bumrah, they went for it. And I'm trying to work out when Rohit uses Bumrah, because when you've got somebody who's that good, it's so important when and how you use them, isn't it? With the spinners, with Rashid Khan, it's so formulaic, really. 6 overs get bowled, on comes Rashid Khan, will probably bowl 2 or 3 overs, depending on a match situation. With Bumrah, I've seen him bowl 1 over in the power play, the 6th over, and keep 3 up his sleeve. I've seen them today bowled him right at the beginning in a power play, and I thought that was a really good move from Rohit. It was the recognition that really you use Bumrah to deal with the threat. whatever threat you find yourself in. And if you think the threat's going to be at the back end of the innings, you go Bumrah heavy at the back. If you think the threat of Afghanistan getting a toehold in the game is up front with their openers, and that has been their threat, you bang him on right at the beginning. And it's just a wonderful thing to have, because essentially, if you look at Bumrah's figures in this World Cup, when you play India, you bowl 20 overs, and in effect, you receive 18 back, and you're 0 for 2. You know, that's sort of how it works with Bumrah. And the sides that can recover from having to chase down India's score in 18 overs and be 0 for 2 are the ones that can beat them. Who they are, I'm not quite sure.
Look, he was prominent at the top. He had a bit more to work with than he might have. I thought in that SKY Hardik partnership, Hardik's ability to hit spin felt really important there. He hits Rashid for 4 off the last ball of Rashid's spell. He whacked Noor Ahmad, which nobody's really been able to do to this point. But they took 30 off his 3 overs, and Hardik hits a big one down the ground, another boundary in there. He also hits a 6 off Levine before he gets caught out at deep point. That's just after Suryakumar's also whacked. I mean, that outrageous 6, that back foot drive off Fazal Haq that somehow carries and then gets caught by Nabi in the deep. But they almost have a possibility to pull it back a bit at the back of that innings. There's a tidy over in the 19th for Fazal Haq when Jadeja gets out, but then Axar gets 14 off the last over, which felt important. 181 for 8. It could have been 14, or it could have been 15 less had it not been for that extra little flurry right at the end. But yeah, you're right. You've got Gurbaz starting, and he goes for it immediately. He charges Arshdeep just consistently, charges and hits one straight for 4, charges and pulls one for 6. And I thought it was really interesting that they changed up the opening combo as well. So Hazratullah Zazai comes back in, who's famously such a booming hitter of the ball, and they dropped Ibrahim Zadran down to 3, even though he was into the action pretty quickly, because it is Bumrah. He's got that cutter, he's got that sort of variation that he throws very wide, so that Gurbaz has to chase it, and it takes that edge behind. And then he gets the other opener as well. He gets Hazratullah again with that cutter that jags a little bit and takes almost a leading edge as he's trying to play to the onside, goes to backward point, gets caught. And by that point, Ibrahim's out too, because he's hit Akshar Patel to cover for 8. So it's 23 for 3. The main hitters are gone. And basically for Afghanistan, it was just damage control after that point, even though it was a fun partnership between Azmatullah and Gulbadin, who, like you said, played some attractive shots without necessarily doing what they need to do on the deliveries in between to really go at a faster rate. But, Gulbadin whacks Aksar out of the ground. Azmatullah whacks Jadeja dead straight. They put on 44. Before they both get out to spin, Gulbadin edges Kuldeep Yadav behind. Azmatullah hits a catch off Jadeja, and that's pretty much it from that point, even though, Najibullah Zadran comes out and hits a couple of entertaining shots. That slog sweep off Kuldeep was quality, and the big pull shot of Hardik Pandya. But yeah, really by that point, I think it was trying not to get completely macerated on net run rate in case Afghanistan can try to win their other 2 and see if they can get through on that basis. But it was interesting watching Bumrah coming back in the 16th and getting Najibullah, who was just starting to look a bit threatening. That width bowling across the left hander, and he was backing away and then reaching for it, slicing it to backward point, and a procession of holding out shots after that. But yeah, that usage of Bumrah again, hold him back to the 16, and then go, no, okay, somebody's batting okay here, so this is when we're going to bring this bloke on, and ensure that they end up bowling out Afghanistan off the last ball of the innings for 40 odd runs short,
47, I think. I mean, it was so in control. They were all details, Jeff, really. I mean, everything you've just said there is a detail, a bit of entertainment here and there, a bit of a shot here and there. There was no jeopardy. There was no real sense that in any way Afghanistan were going to threaten India. Even in that partnership, the Gulbadin partnership, you knew that the rate was going inexorably higher, because it was a series of very well bowled balls and the occasional 6. And, that's not going to be enough to go at 11s and then 12s and then 13s. So, what it means for the group is, with these small groups, especially because some of the seeded sides haven't got through. Bangladesh in that group do feel quite weak, I think, on these surfaces. And similarly, like yesterday, England's win over the West Indies means that there's USA in that group. There's not to have a go at USA. They performed brilliantly. It's been great fun to watch. But in a way, there's a 3-team group, isn't it? And if you beat one of those other 2 teams, then you've got one foot in the semi-finals. It's as simple as that. And India, by beating Afghanistan, Afghanistan have got to beat Australia, and because they've lost by 47 runs, there's a good chance they'll have to beat them well. You would think their only chance there is probably going to be net run rate, unless Australia can win all 3 games. I don't know. I mean, but it's what it feels like, if you get my drift. It feels quite sudden deathy, even though it's a group phase. And it was a bit sad, really, I thought, because I went into the game thinking Afghanistan could pull off a shock. But the problem is they're set up to pull off a shock if a couple of very definable things come off. And they didn't. And so and they didn't come off very quickly, which rendered the rest of the game a curiosity. And it's good fun to be there. It's beautiful to be there in Barbados. I know you commentated some games here. And I just went off on a reverie, gazing at the names of everybody in the stand and creating my own World 11. Anything that's missing from a Barbados World 11 is a wicketkeeper, from what I can see. Although I suppose Walcott could do it, couldn't he? I suppose he'd have to do it. So, yes, gazing around going, Walcott, Worrell, Weeks, Sobers, Conrad Hunt, Greenwich, Haynes. I don't need that many. Maybe I do. Garner, Marshall, and what's the rest of my bowling attack?
Where's Hall, Charlie Griffith?
Where's Hall, Charlie Griffith? Done. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm out of here. Excuse me. So that was kind of how I was occupying my time, really, in between sort of phoning in the balls.
Yep. All right, let's take a quick break, then we're going to the Hall of Fame. The final word, T20 World Cup Daily, brought to you by Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. Today, Daniel, we're talking about mangoes. Other than the people who are highly allergic to them, who doesn't love mangoes? The legendary rulers Akbar, Jahangir, and Shah Jahan loved them so much that they planted hundreds of thousands of mango trees across their empire and demanded their cooks develop mango-based desserts. Not only is the mango the national fruit of India and Pakistan, but the mango tree is the national tree of Bangladesh. All summer long, you can celebrate the mango at Westfield London at the Copper Chimney Arm Fest. Now, that's spelled A-A-M. It's not a fest for arms. That's Gulbadeen Naib. It's Arm Fest every day for him. But this is Arm Fest. It's in Mango Fest. You've never seen mangoes like this before. They're spicy. They're in curries. They're in pickles. They're in desserts. They're in cocktails. Truly the all-rounder of the fruit world. And as such, they are in danger of being devalued by the inclusion of an impact fruit. Westfield London. Mangoes. Woman goes. We all goes to Westfield London. I don't know if you're a mango enthusiast or not, but you know where to go now.
I'm not as much of a mango enthusiast as other people are, but I do not mind a mango. I don't like it when they go furry, but sometimes when they when it just goes over and you cut into it and it's actually quite fibrous. I like it before that point. I don't like it at that point.
No. That makes sense. That is not optimum mango, but that's when you can start cooking the mangoes or doing all the other things with mangoes that you can find out about at Armfest. Hall of Fame. Obviously we have to throw in, I think, the absurd fetched sweep shot that Suryakumar plays of Hazratullah, which is a wide full toss outside the off stump that is almost off the pitch. It's probably outside. I think it was outside the blue lines, but further than that, it was almost going to land off the pitch. And somehow, without having moved across very far, Suryakumar is able to reach out, Inspector Gadget arm style, get outside the line of it, and flick that full toss through square leg for 4. It was not quite the one that Steve Smith played in 2016 when he was literally standing off the cut strip to Wahab Riaz, but it was ridiculous nonetheless.
Yeah, that's what Suryakumar Yadav does, though, doesn't he? I reckon if he bats for more than 15 balls, he will play a shot so outrageous that you think you haven't seen it before, but it is actually in your Suryakumar Yadav mad shot bank. It has happened before, but you were traumatized.
A well-maintained bank.
The last time. It's a very well-maintained bank. It's the bank that likes to say, good grief, what the hell was that? Yeah, there was that. And for me, I suppose my one was going to be, was it Noor Ahmed who hit his first ball as a reverse sweep and he connected with it absolutely perfectly. And thereafter, barely could lay a bat on it. He thereafter tried to play sensible sort of pushes into the covers for a run, which he was then not going to take. So all of Noor Ahmed's innings was kind of Hall of Famey for me because it sort of didn't make any sense at all. Those are my nominations.
Then he belted a 6 in the very last over, and then he got out of the last ball of the
So
the whole thing all up was fairly bizarre.
Yeah, that's what.
I like Hardik Pandya hitting the press box with one of his 6s. Literally banged into the windows just below the radio commentary box.
And actually, something about that, when it banged into the windows, it then bounced off into the bit behind the sight screen, which you never see. People won't know about this, but there's like steps that lead up to the top inside the sight screen. The sight screen's got a kind of little box behind it. And the ball went into that, and then 4 players went to look for it. It was very village style, Mohammed Nabi being among them. Finally, a cameraman found it. To much glee, he was absolutely delighted. And at that particular moment, what was particularly amusing about it all was that, from memory, that there were 3 umpires who were all in the wrong place. There was Paul Rifle, who had gone off towards deep mid-wicket looking for the ball. There was the standing umpire who had been at the Rod Tucker, who was at the bowler's end, who had gone off to try and find Alex Wharf. And Alex Wharf had seemed to disappear into somewhere completely different. And so when you look at a cricket field, like the umpire's quite an important part of you having an idea of, the graphic design, if you like.
And they're hot pink. They're noticeable.
And they were all in the wrong place by a long, long way. They're all like 60 yards away from where they normally would be. And this just felt like absolute Sunday afternoon cricket, Brilliant.
I enjoyed Paul Rifle not giving out Shivam Dube. It was Rashid Khan bowling, wasn't it? The one that hit him dead in front. And I think the Paul Rifle the other day took about 40 seconds to give an out decision. So I just thought he was waiting. I thought he was just doing the slow Paul Rifle again. But no, he said not out. I think he assumed there was a little bit of glove on it, which was a reasonable enough thing to think. But there wasn't. The review overturned that. That was dead. And my last bit is I enjoyed from the last ball of India's innings, Naveen Ulhaq in a foot race with Akshar Patel, who didn't realise they were going to try to run a by. How players still aren't switched on to this, I'm not sure. But Akshar just wasn't really thinking about it. Then he went, oh, God, we're running. And he started running. And Naveen gets thrown the ball and goes, I'm not going to risk underarming this at the stumps. I'm going to get back before you. And the two of them next to each other. And Naveen gets in first and takes the bails before Akshar can get there. I liked it. It was a case of keeping your head when all about you are losing theirs. So that's the end of my Hall of Fame. And anything else from you, Daniel?
No, nothing.
You're out.
I finally got 2 hours off in Barbados. I'm going to see if there's anything here I've heard about.
Yeah,
apparently there is.
There is. There are many things there, and I wish you great joy in discovering them. This has been the Final Word T20 World Cup Daily. Day 20, Part 1. Australia play Bangladesh tonight, so there'll be an episode from that as well. Thanks, Daniel Norcross, for joining the show. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/thefinalword. You can also get the advertising-free feed if you join up. No automatic ad breaks if you joined up on the Patreon. And thanks to Westfield for sponsoring the show. All right, that's it from us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.